Hello bookie people, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a fun video for you guys. It is a bookish Q&A. I posted on my Instagram some bookish questions on my story, and I actually got a good amount of responses, which I thought was fun. To start off the video, I just got home from work. I'm probably gonna do a little bit of reading later. What I'm reading right now is called Happy Medium by Sarah Adler. This is the cover, it's super cute. It's about a medium woman who is kind of a con artist, and she has her own space that she does seances, and a customer comes in and asks her to help out this man who's a goat farmer get rid of a ghost and do an exorcism. So this is a really fun book so far. I'm only about maybe like a fourth of the way in. It's also my first book club book, which I'm really excited about, with my aunt and my cousin. Shout out to you guys if you're watching this. I'm excited to talk about this book with you guys. It's fun. I really like the writing style. It's silly. Yeah, I think it's been a fun read, so I think I'm gonna read more later. And it's also September 18th, which is a perfect time to read. It's a little bit foggy and a little cool outside, so it's just the perfect time to like be cozy and curl up with a book. Let's get on to the bookish questions. The first question I got is favorite places to read books. So I have two answers to this question. The first one is in the summer, I like to read by the pool and tan. I just feel like it's a perfect space to just relax and sit by the pool, and if you get too hot, you'll like dip in a little bit. I have gotten books wet with this method, so beware of that. But it's fun, it's chill. Sometimes I also get too hot and I have to leave, so I don't always do a ton of reading when I'm there, but I do love reading books by the pool. I think it's really fun and relaxing. And then the next place in the summer I like to go is out on my balcony. It's just such a cute summer feel out here, and I like to read on my porch swing, and I like to read laying down and also tanning in a bikini in the morning, especially in the morning, because that's when the sunlight comes in, and I have a cup of coffee or an iced tea and I sit out there and I read, and it's just so nice and relaxing and a great way to start the day. And then fall and winter time, it switches up a little bit. I like to lay on my couch, cozied up in a blanket with my husband and my dog, and I read while he plays video games. And then another one I like to do in fall and winter time is in my bed. I like to go to bed early, so I have extra time to read, and I like to get all cozy up in bed. I have a lot of cool lights in there, like my vanity lights are on, my little salt lamp is on, so it's very like moody and chill in there at night. And I feel like it's just the perfect time to read at night, is because you read and then you get tired and go to sleep. The next question I got is, what are your thoughts on book talk? I really liked this question, and I had to think about it for a little bit because I think I'm pretty neutral about book talk. I feel like as an adult, when I was first kind of getting into reading, I went to book talk a lot to get recommendations from people, especially Haley Pham I was watching, and she kind of made me inspired to read more and to read kind of the genres that she reads. I also think that it can be a place that people can come to and kind of have a community of, you know, talking to others that like the same books as you, like the same genres as you, have good recommendations for you. It's also a really great place for authors to showcase their books. So I think there's a lot of good with book talk, and I also think that reading right now is very popular, which I love because I feel like there's such a big community of readers, and I've read a lot of readers like online and in real life, so that's been pretty cool. The cons of book talk is that certain authors and books get chastised for just being what they are. I think, like, for instance, Colleen Hoover, I think, is very under the spotlight right now with her writing style, how her books are kind of Wattpad-y, and you know, I understand that, and I understand people's criticisms, but I mean, you know, it's not always going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I think when books are talked about so badly that it makes other people not want to read them, you not gravitate towards those books when they might in general if book talk wasn't around. I also think on the other side of the spectrum, books becomes so overrated by book talk, and then you go in and you read it and you're like, why did I spend my time reading this? I thought this was supposed to be good. And I've had a lot of those instances, unfortunately. So I kind of don't go to book talk anymore for recommendations. I more just go for the community, especially on Instagram. I go for the community of just bookish people and like the aesthetic of books. And then, yeah, I like to look up new authors. So that's a cool space. So yeah, it definitely has pros and cons. I don't think like I hate book talk. I wouldn't say that, or I love book talk. Like I'm just kind of neutral on the spectrum. I think it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So then this next question I had to think a lot about, and it was just like hard for me to pick one book, and it was hard for me to pick even just my 2 books that I brought up. So the question is, what is the most life-changing book you have read? So I have one of them right here. Asimov, A Court of Mist and Fury by Miss Sarah J. Maas. This is from A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I can't talk about this book too much because it's such a spoiler, and anyone that is getting into the series, I don't want to spoil it. I might make a video just talking about the ACOTAR series as a whole with spoilers. But all I will say is that the love and the relationship and the healing aspect of this book, it is a fantasy novel. It's hard to even like summarize it, I guess. I really do need to just make a video just talking about this series, but I would just say that the reason why it was life-changing for me was that I read it at a time where I was going through my own healing journey and finding yourself and finding magic. I can't do this without spoilers. I literally can't. I'm just gonna say this was a life-changing book for me. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and I do need to just make a video about it with spoilers, because I can't just talk about it without the spoilers. But anyways, I love this book, and it did change my life. I think it probably made me cry more than any book ever, and I like to reread my underlines and my annotations again, and it makes me start sobbing again. But yeah, highly, highly, highly recommend ACOTAR if you haven't read it. I'm sure you've heard of it. That's another thing. These are huge on Book Talk, and it's kind of a fun community, I think, because there are all these like kind of nerdy fantasy girlies on there that like fantasy books and has like the Fae and the Bat Boys and just all of that. It's just a fun time to be in this world, so I recommend it. Other life-changing book I will talk about is Divine Rivals. I already mentioned this in a previous video, but it is one of my favorite books. It's a 6-star read for me. It's about Iris and Roman, and they work as war correspondents, and they have magical typewriters, and they write to each other. It's a fantasy book, and it is just the most precious book ever. Like, I also read it at a time when I was needing to grieve and to heal, and this book has a lot of grief and healing in it, and both of the characters are dealing with their own things, and they come together and they're just soulmates, and it's just so precious, and I love it. And it kind of, not the storyline, but just their relationship dynamics reminds me a lot of my own relationship, and they're just so in love and so happy together, and it's just like perfect. And the whole book is just kind of them like finding themselves and each other, and it's just so cute and precious. Out of ACOTAR, I have another question, which is, what Bat Boy is your favorite? This is such a silly question. I love it. Rhysand? Obviously, if you know, you know. Okay. He is very caring and charismatic, and he's honestly just like the perfect book boyfriend. Like, if anyone asks me like who's the book boyfriend, it's literally him. He's a 500-year-old fae, and yeah. He's just my favorite. I like it. I like the lint on the shoulder, if you catch my drift. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Favorite book genre? I like this question. I read a variety of book genres, and I'm trying to expand that even more as I've become more into adulthood. And through this year, like, I actually made a resolution this year, expanding genres, and I might even make a video on it. I wanted to read classic books. I wanted to read thriller novels, horror, because I feel like I gravitate more towards like contemporary romance. So I will say my favorite genre is romance. I love romance. I'm a Pisces. I'm a romantic. I love reading anything romance. Even if it's just the subplot of a book, I still adore it. Any form of romance. I like contemporary, I like dark romances, I like mafia romances, I like fantasy romances. All across the board, if you give me a romance book, I will be happy because I like romance. But I like this question as well. I like all these questions. I'm probably going to say that for all of them. But my biggest book ick and my pet peeves in books. This were two questions combined. I'm going to first say that I don't like pregnancy tropes. I don't know what it is about it, but like I said, I do like romance novels, and I feel like when there's a pregnancy scare or pregnancy that happens within the book, it just kind of ruins it for me. It always marks off a star for me. It always feels like it comes out of nowhere. I haven't read a book where it like is done well. Like maybe if it was done well, I would like it better, but it's just like, oh, we're in love. It's the beginning of our relationship. Oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. What do I do? It's just like, it just doesn't go well with my head and how I want the story to go. And I just don't like it. It just takes away from the story, because then it's all about the baby and creating this family together, which is cute. I get it. I'd rather just see it maybe in the epilogue and not talked about throughout the whole book, I guess, is all I have to say. And I don't gravitate towards books that there is a pregnancy trope in it. And on that note, another big book ick for me is cheating trope. This kind of goes without saying. I feel like I don't really like triangle romances. I don't like it if a person is with someone else and they're in love with somebody else. It's just, since I've been in that experience, I don't want to read about it, I guess. It's like a little too real, and it's not romantic to me. It's not cute. It's not interesting. I will say that there is one book that does it right, which is Magnolia Parks. I've talked about this in other videos, but I think that this book was really interesting and very drama filled, and I liked it. And you know, you go into it knowing it's a toxic relationship, but it's not like a cutesy read where you're expecting it. You know, you expect that in Magnolia Parks. You don't necessarily expect it, just like a cutesy little romance or whatever. Another ick I have is modern day slang in a book. This almost always knocks off a star for me, or at least like a half a star. It's just like it just doesn't age well for me, and it's not like pertaining to the masses. I don't like it when you're talking about gifs in books or memes or just modern day slang in any shape or form. Just not a vibe. Especially if it's talking about COVID or quarantine, because it's like, I lived through that. I don't want to read about it. I'm trying to escape reality. You know what I mean? This next question is kind of a gag. It was kind of a joke. My husband said, "How do you read?" I don't know how. I don't know how to help you there, buddy. But in general, I learned in first grade, and I automatically fell in love with reading, and I started reading short chapter books as a child. And then on that note, I had a question that said, what got you into reading? I think I've always really loved books. I loved reading them as a child, and I loved reading them as an adult and a young adult. I think as a kid, you know, you'd read those like chapter books that you really liked. I liked a lot of series. And then as I aged a bit more, I kind of got into like YA romances like Twilight and Hunger Games, Divergent, those kind of books. And then as a young adult, when I was first moved out of my house, when I was like around 18, I kind of went for more genres that were like horror related. I read a lot of Stephen King. I was really into cults at one time, so I was like reading every book about cults, and I would even read nonfiction, which is crazy because I don't think I've picked up a nonfiction book in a long time. And then nowadays, like I said, I gravitate more towards romance and different series and fantasy series. So which character do you feel the deepest connection with? This is a fun question as well. I'm gonna say Mabel Parrish from the book Twice Shy by Sarah Hogle. I love Sarah Hogle books. I think she only has like 3 or 4 out right now. I've read both of her biggest books, which is Twice Shy and You Deserve Each Other. So Twice Shy Mabel is a woman who is kind of stuck in her life, and her great aunt passes away, and she inherits her estate. And I really relate with Mabel because she is such a sweet character. Like, she's just kind to everyone around her, and people kind of treat her like a doormat a little bit and like use her for things, and like something kind of happens in the beginning of the book that she feels very used, and that kind of makes her lead to like trying to have a new start in life. She also struggles with mental health problems, with anxiety, which I also relate with that a lot, and the way that it was described and perceived was just very validating to read. And the main love interest also has anxiety, and I just thought that was like very validating. It was very well done. And I think Sarah Hogle is just a mastermind at writing. I really like how she creates stories and kind of weaves them into each other with the characters. And at the end of the novel, you kind of see how Mabel's kindness like goes into her actions, and how she creates something really magical out of the estate that she inherited. I won't talk about too much because it is a spoiler, but I just related with her because of her anxiety and all of the problems that she was going through. I feel like she was able to come out of it and still like be nice to people, which I just try to hold really close to my heart at moments when I'm trying to get through life and hard times in life, but still just be really nice to everyone, because you never know what other people are going through. So I just thought that was a pretty special novel to me. I also thought it's like a rom-com romance, so it's like very silly, and she's a very funny person, and I just thought she was just like didn't take life super seriously, which I relate with as well. That was a 5-star read for me as well. Okay, this one's a fun one. Do you recommend any sexy books? Haha, I'm trying to get into those. So I like this question. I don't necessarily go for spice in novels. Like, I don't go seeking for it. If it's there, it's there, you know. Sometimes I skip over them, honestly, but there are a couple ones that came to mind when I read this question. One of those is The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. Has some tabs in it. It's about this girl named Ada, and she's 19, and it's a mafia book. It's a dark romance, enemies to lovers. She has an arranged marriage with a man named Callum, and I just thought this book was so good. I read it in like a day. It's kind of trashy, I'm not gonna lie, but the scenes in it, yeah, if you know, you know. But this is kind of when I first got into dark romances, and I think it's a good kind of like dip your toe into mafia romances. I love the arranged marriage bit. They like try to kill each other. It's just kind of crazy. I think when I think like sexy books, I think of like dark romances, which is like probably something that's an issue with me, but that's okay. If you're not feeling a dark romance, but you're still wanting to look for a little bit of spice in your life, I recommend this one. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. It's a good summer read. It's fun. It's based off of Schitt's Creek, if you know that TV show. It's about kind of a girl who's like a little bit ditzy. She comes from a rich family. She's kind of like a micro celebrity. Her dad cuts her off, so she ends up moving to this little town and meets this guy who's, I think, like Brendan, who's like a crab fisherman, which is like a really dangerous job. And I think Tessa Bailey is just the go-to for spice. Like, she has a lot of spicy books. Like, every book she makes is like very spicy. This is one of the first books I read when I was getting into romance, so it was like also a good like way to put myself into that genre more. It's just a fun little book. It's cute, but it's also a little spicy, so I recommend this one if you're not wanting to read like a crazy dark romance as well. Are there any books you think are overrated, and why? So this also kind of ties into that book talk conversation. I'm gonna say Icebreaker. It became really popular, I think, like a year ago, and it was like on Kindle Unlimited and stuff. Like I said, I don't go seeking for spice in books, so this book was pretty much just spice, and the story just went on and on and on and on and on. I didn't really like the main characters that much. I didn't like how they came together. I still gave it like 3 stars. Like, I don't think it was like an awful read for me, but I think it's just one of those books that I think of when I'm like, oh, this is overrated, because it got huge on Book Talk, and it was like And also, I think a lot of people are talking about the cover and how it's like stupid, but I don't know. I kind of like cartoon covers. Like, I think they're cute. That's just my opinion, though, you know. And I thought the Icebreaker cover was cute, and I love hockey romances. It's a hockey romance, and it's about a hockey player and a ice skater who wants to be in the Olympics. She's also like the grumpy one in the relationship, and he's like the sunshine, like grumpy sunshine trope. This one is also a grumpy sunshine trope as well, if you're into that kind of thing. So it was interesting how that was like a switch up, but I just think it's overrated. I don't know. Like, I don't recommend it. And the story it was way too long. It just wasn't my thing. Another book I think is overrated is The Spanish Love Deception. This is another one that was just so slow for me. Like, it took me forever to read. It wasn't a good read for me. It just wasn't keeping me on my toes. It's about a woman who has to go to a wedding, and she finds a fake date, and the guy decides to go with her to Spain. Throughout the whole story, they kind of fall in love with each other, but it was just boring. Slow books get it for me. I kind of like a slow burn sometimes if I'm in the mood, and like some are done well, but this one I just didn't like. Okay, so the last question I have is, do you prefer audiobooks, ebooks, or physical books? And I am going to say all of them. I love any form of books. It depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I just want to read on my ebook. I want to read in the gym. I want to bring my Kindle with me places. Like, it's way easier to transport a Kindle than 5 books, you know. I'm a mood reader, so I like it for that. I also like using my Libby app, and I can download ebooks on there. I can also use Libby for audiobooks, and I read a lot of audiobooks. I like audiobooks in the car or while I'm doing chores. I do it kind of while I'm moving and doing stuff or on a walk. I like audiobooks for that reason. And then physical books are for when I want to just sit and chill and read. I think if I was on a stranded island and I could only pick one, I would definitely pick physical books. Like, there's nothing like holding a book and turning the pages. Like, I'll just say that. I guess, like, if you were gonna ask me what I prefer the most, it would probably be that. I think that's it for this video. I'm sorry if that was kind of a rambler. It was really fun to answer questions. I'll probably do this again because it was just fun to kind of get like you guys asking me questions. Guys, follow me on Instagram, like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate if you watched to the end of this. Thank you so, so much. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.